Good morning, Facebook. I'm Derek Treesize coming at you live here from Brute Force Personal Training. I just finished my capoeira workout this morning, so had a moment, I figured I'd share something. I haven't shared things in like 2 weeks, sorry about that. So, a couple things I want to share with you this morning. If you've kept up with any of my live videos on little workout tips you can do at home to kind of maintain your body while we're all locked up and can't go to gyms or being careful, things like that, we've worked on hips, we've worked on shoulders, we've worked on spine mobility, we've worked on your ankles and feet. So today I wanted to hit wrists. We've not done any kind of wrist health, wrist therapeutic kind of exercises. And wrists are a really important joint to use all day, every day when you're doing everything. And a lot of people have problems with their wrists, and it can really hinder enjoyment of daily life and being able to do certain physical activities. If you have really bad wrist pain, you're not going to be able to go and push yourself at the gym or do something you might be interested in, like a yoga class. So, I'm going to show you some things you can do to maintain or improve your wrists at home and hopefully get you feeling better. And avoid things like if you have a lot of repetitive movements with your work, like computer work, hair cutting, things like that, you can get things like carpal tunnel. So, maintaining your wrists is really important, especially if you use them professionally. So, a couple things I want to show you. The first is a wrist stretch sequence. And now, Marcel and I learned this sequence. I've known a few wrist stretches, but this one I like. It's really comprehensive. And we did a program called GMB, that's Hold Metal Bodies. It's an online kind of movement mobility program that I really enjoyed. Feel free to check that out. And I learned a lot of these stretches from that program. So they have a background emphasis in gymnastics, and so obviously gymnasts doing all the planting and springing and handstands, really flexible, really strong wrists. So there's a good background there. So what I'm going to do is take you through some stretches and then some strengthening exercises first. So for stretches, I'm going to face you so you can see what I'm doing. But just so you know, I'm on my hands and knees here. And as I'm on my hands and knees, if you have really sensitive, really tight, uncomfortable wrists, bring your hands closer to your knees. That way more of your weight is going to be on your knees and less will be on your hands. If you have really sturdy, strong wrists, then you want to push it a little bit, get more spread out. That way there's more weight on your hands. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to start, and it's heel raises. Just like you can raise the heels of your feet when you're standing on them, we're going to raise the heels of our hands. So my fingers are splayed and glued to the mat, and I'm just going to raise the heels of my hands. And essentially what we're doing is we're bending our fingers back against the mat there. So, going up, going down, going up, going down. Good. I'm going to do this 8, 10, 15 times, depends on how tight you feel. From there, I'm going to hold at the top. So my fingers are glued to the mat, my heels are up, and I'm going to roll both hands in towards the middle, roll both hands out. So I'm doing finger rolls. And this is essentially bending each finger back separately. So it's going to be a little more intense here. We're loosening up those fingers, loosening up the palms of your hands. Something a lot of people don't think of. You use your hands, but you don't stretch your hands. Now, from here, plank your hands again, and we're going to do elbow circles. So keeping a flat back, keeping your shoulders still, we're going to turn our elbows as far in as we can, turn our elbows as far out as we can. So in that essence, what we're doing is rotating the wrist without moving the hand. So again, do this 8, 10, 15 times, depending on how much you want to do and how tight you feel. In and out. Good. Alright, so from here, I'm going to plant my hand out sideways, and what I'm going to do is I'm bearing down into the ground with the heels of my hands. I'm going to push on my left hand to go right, and that's stretching the right wrist. Now I'm going to push on the right hand to go left. And it's important that you think about bearing down, otherwise your weight's going to shift back into your knees and the stress won't be as intense. So think about pushing down those hands, push to the right, push to the left. Good. Again, we're doing this 5, 8, 10 times, something like that. Not a specific number, but just multiple times to really kind of get this looser and under load. Strengthening under load is important. Alright, now we're going to get a little more intense. If you have very tight wrists, that one was probably enough for you. If you feel like you have a little more mobility and you want to get a little better stretch, we're going to rotate our hands all the way backwards. So now I have the bottom of my hand facing forwards here, and my fingers are pointed at my knees. Alright, so from there, I'm going to sit back towards my heels, keeping the heel of my hand pushed into the floor, and I'm going to come forward. I'm going to do this sideways so you can see what I'm doing. My hands are pointed backwards, and I'm just going to sit back, come forward. Sit back, forward. Make sure you're pushing your hands into the mat the whole time. Good, good, good. All right, so now next one is we're going to stretch. We've been doing everything in wrist dorsiflexion. Now we're going to go to plantar flexion, stretching the other way, and we're going to the back of the hands. So take your hands, point the fingers back, get up on the back of the hands, try and lock those elbows, and same thing. Sit back, come forward. This is really intense for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't bend their wrist back that way. Like I said, if it hurts, move your knees closer, don't go as far, and just ease into it. I broke my hand last year when I dropped a tree on it, and after being in a brace for 6-8 weeks, whatever I was in a brace, taking it out, my wrist was stuck straight. So even though I've done wrist stretches for a long, long time, I had to start all over, and it was incredibly painful to even do these basic stretches. But I did them 2-3 times a day, and it came back pretty quickly. Within 3 weeks, I was almost back to normal. It's still slightly tighter than the left wrist, but my right hand has been that way my whole life. So I got it back. And if it hurts a lot, if it's real uncomfortable, don't push it, but stay with it. Be consistent, and it will improve. I guarantee you it will improve. All right, last one here. We get off the back of the hands. I'm planting my hands again, splaying my fingers, and we're going to lean forward. And lean forward puts more of your body weight on your hands as it flexes your wrists more. So we're going to go forward, pressing down, ease back. Forward, pressing down, ease back. So those are great wrist mobility movements you can do all the time. You have to spend a lot of time tightening, you can spend a lot of time doing whatever with your hands, repetitive movements without a lot of range of motion. They're going to get tight, they're going to get achy, you're going to be more likely to have problems. So keep them loose, keep them mobile. 2 strengthening exercises I want to show you. So that already is strengthening. If you're bearing down a lot, you would absolutely strengthen your wrist there. But you can strengthen more. One is a yoga pose called crow pose. And this is how a lot of people build up their wrist strength for handstands. Because obviously if you're doing a handstand, your wrists have to be able to take your entire body weight. So crow pose, I'm not a yogi. Bear with me. It's not going to be pretty. But crow pose, you plant your hands about shoulder width apart, fingers nice and splayed. I'm in a deep squat notice, and I'm going to prop my knees on my elbows. So if you look, my knees are pressing against my elbows here. I'm leaning forward, and my knees are going to rest on my elbows so that my arms don't have to hold my whole weight. I'm basically stacking my bones on top of each other to hold my weight. And then I'm going to lean forward until I can slowly get my feet up off the ground here and hold that weight. So that's a great way to build up your wrist strength with your full body weight. Balance is a lot easier than something like a handstand because your center of gravity is low and you're stacking your bones so it doesn't take nearly as much strength. My legs are resting on my elbows, so there's not a lot of shoulder work happening. So we're here, and you can do this multiple times. If you don't have the balance yet, then obviously just kind of come in and out of it. And if you want to stack pillows around yourself or have a mat in front of you in case you tip forward, that's probably a good idea. Don't knock your head on the floor. So that's the crow pose. That's a great way to strengthen your wrists. I suggest you mobilize them first, get them loose, get them warm so you don't start to strain them. The other one is, I sprained my wrist in middle school, and for years afterwards, all the way through college and after college, when I would do heavy pressing, bench press, shoulder press, my right wrist would hurt a lot. Some days it would hurt so bad I would have to wear a wrist strap just on that side to support the heavy pressing weight. Until I found, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, I got the great idea of, hey, I'm always loading it in the dorsiflex position. Why not work on loading it in the plantar flex position? And I started doing that. And what I did was push-ups with a flexed wrist. Now, it was really, really scary and really, really painful at first. So what I did is I would do knee push-ups on a couch. And I've got this here to kind of represent a couch. But I was literally on couch cushions, back of my hands, knee push-ups like this. And it was really painful and scary. So what I did is I did 2 sets of 5, 3 times a week for a couple weeks. And then I built it up to 3 sets of 5. And then I built it up to 3 sets of 10. And then I started doing, on my toes on the couch, on the back of my wrists. And then, probably about 2 months later, I was able to do them on the floor here, like this. That was unthinkable when I started. But they built up pretty quickly when I was consistent. And something I noticed is immediately my wrist pain went away. So again, I just kind of made that one up, but I noticed a big improvement, a big difference there. When I started loading the dorsiflexion, or flexion, whichever, flexing my wrist instead of extending my wrist. When I started loading and strengthening that, the wrist pain when I'm doing presses is gone. My wrists feel much healthier, much better. So, really important, I think, to incorporate that. Even if you don't want to do something as extreme as flex wrist push-ups, do these stretches and build with those wrists so that you have strength and so your wrists aren't going to give out or cause pain when you're doing things you enjoy. So, give these things a try. I would do something like this at least once a week. Take care of your hands. You use them all day, every day, and you want to be able to use them for your whole life. And look at how they go. Give it a shot. Hopefully it helps. I'd love to hear your comments. Take it easy, guys.